Well, it looks like we may have a pretty good idea of when Caitlin Clark is next going to play basketball, and it's not during the WNBA season. At least that's not the next thing that she's got her eye on. It's not Unrivaled, and it's not Athletes Unlimited, but it is sooner than the WNBA season.
The WNBA just got hit with the reality check they've been dreading. Caitlin Clark, the player who single-handedly dragged women's basketball into mainstream consciousness, just said no to every off-season league that came calling. No Unrivaled, no Athletes Unlimited, no overseas money that would make your mortgage payment look like pocket change. She's refusing to play, and the entire basketball establishment is quietly panicking behind closed doors. But here's where this story takes a turn nobody saw coming. While everyone's busy writing headlines about Clark abandoning basketball, they're completely missing the real play she's making. This isn't a retreat. This isn't burnout. This is one of the most calculated power moves in modern sports. And the WNBA is about to learn exactly how much they need her. Many of you have been saying this for weeks in the comments. You noticed something wasn't adding up with the injury timeline. You questioned why the Indiana Fever kept changing their story. You were onto something when you pointed out that a high ankle sprain doesn't keep a professional athlete out for 4 months. Let's filter out the noise and dig into what's really happening here, because the story behind the story is way bigger than anyone's reporting. If you believe the narrative, everyone deserves to know the truth, not just the sanitized press releases. Smash that like button right now. It tells us we're asking the right questions and digging in the right places. Because what we're about to break down changes everything you thought you knew about Caitlin Clark's rookie season. Let's start with the decision that has the basketball world completely divided. Clark turned down Unrivaled, a 3-on-3 league backed by serious money and designed specifically to keep WNBA stars stateside during the offseason. She passed on Athletes Unlimited, another domestic option that would have kept her in front of American fans. And she definitely said no to overseas opportunities that routinely pay players 6 figures for just a few months of work. Now, on the surface, that sounds insane. We're talking about a player who made roughly $200,000 in her entire WNBA rookie season. The off-season paychecks she's turning down could match or exceed that entire salary. Players have been supplementing their WNBA income with international play for decades. It's not just normal, it's practically mandatory if you want financial security in women's basketball. But Clark isn't like other players, and this decision proves it. While her competitors are grinding overseas for paychecks, she's playing an entirely different game. The question everyone's asking is why? Why would someone who could be stacking paper right now choose to sit at home instead? The answer reveals everything about where women's basketball is heading and who's really controlling the narrative. Reading between the lines of her exit interview, Clark made her priorities crystal clear. She's not focused on short-term money. She's not chasing validation from off-season leagues that most casual fans have never heard of. Her main focus, in her own words, is getting her body healthy. That phrase right there, that's the key to understanding this entire situation. Let's rewind and talk about this injury situation, because nothing about it makes sense if you actually look at the timeline. Back in July, the Indiana Fever announced Clark had a groin strain and a high ankle sprain, standard injuries that professional athletes deal with regularly. Expected recovery time for those injuries combined, maybe 6 to 8 weeks max. But here we are in November, and she's still not playing competitive basketball. 4 months for a high ankle sprain and a groin strain. Let that sink in. NFL players tear their ACL and come back faster than this. NBA guards with the same injuries are back on the court in half that time. But somehow, Clark's injuries required a recovery period that stretched through the entire offseason. The math isn't mathing, and anyone paying attention started asking questions the Fever refused to answer. The team turned into the CIA of professional sports. Every injury update sounded like it was written by lawyers and cleared by 3 different PR departments. They threw around terms like precautionary measures, day-to-day evaluation, and load management protocols. They used more medical jargon than a hospital drama, but never actually explained why their franchise cornerstone was sitting out this long. Here's what the official timeline shows. Clark went from dropping statement performances in her first few games to suddenly being too injured to play 5 games in a row. The girl who pulled up from the logo at Iowa and talked trash to defenders twice her size was suddenly moving like she was scared to make a hard cut. Something changed, and the Fever's explanation never matched what fans were seeing with their own eyes.
Oh, she didn't look like her usual self. Though her counting stats, 16.5 points, 5 rebounds, 8.8 assists, were still impressive. She shot 36.7% from the field, including 27.9% from three-point range, and had 3 games without a 3, something that previously hadn't happened since her sophomore season at Iowa. Quote, "I would never speak for Caitlin, but it's frustrating as an athlete to go through injury when you're not able to do what you love to do." White said, "Certainly having setbacks, then working your way back, then having another setback, all of that is frustrating." While it's frustrating, it's important that we get her back to 100% and she's comfortable, she's confident that she's healthy, and that she can move forward in a way that continues to build on her career and her franchise.
Now, Coach Stephanie White has been diplomatic about the situation, which is exactly what you'd expect from a professional head coach. But look at what she's actually saying between the lines. Multiple setbacks, working back, then having another setback. That's not the story of a simple ankle sprain. That's the story of an injury that either was way worse than initially reported or was mismanaged from the start. And here's where the conspiracy theories started taking root. While Clark was supposedly too hurt to play basketball, she was somehow healthy enough to do media appearances, sit for interviews, and participate in promotional events. She could talk at a desk for an hour, but couldn't run up and down a court for 20 minutes. Fans started connecting dots that the Fever really didn't want connected. Some people thought it was about team chemistry issues with other star players. Others believed the organization was strategically sitting her to tank for a better draft position. The wildest theory floating around social media suggested Clark was secretly exploring options with other teams and using the injury as cover for negotiations. Not officially confirmed, but when an organization stops being transparent, fans fill in the blanks themselves. The Indiana Fever's communication strategy throughout all of this was a master class in how not to handle a superstar's injury. They released vague statements that raised more questions than answers. They changed the narrative multiple times. They never gave fans a concrete timeline or clear explanation. It was like watching an organization realize in real time that they had no idea how to manage the biggest thing that ever happened to their franchise. But while everyone was focused on what Clark wasn't doing, they completely missed what she was setting up. Because her refusal to play in these off-season leagues wasn't about avoiding basketball. It was about avoiding the wrong basketball at the wrong time. Think about it from Clark's perspective for just a second. She could go play in Unrivaled or Athletes Unlimited right now. She'd make decent money, get some reps, stay in the headlines. Sounds great, right? Except those leagues are playing in front of crowds that might fill a high school gym. The games stream on platforms most casual fans don't even know exist. The highlight plays might get a few thousand views if they're lucky. That's not the stage Caitlin Clark plays on. That's not the platform that matches her brand value. She's not being arrogant about it. She's being strategic. While other players are chasing winter paychecks that disappear into tax returns, Clark is building anticipation for something way bigger. And if you've been following this story closely, drop a comment right now telling us what you think her real endgame is, because the next part of this story is about to blow your mind. Here's where we need to talk about what happened to the WNBA when Clark went down. The league had spent 25 years building a loyal but small fan base. Then Clark showed up and brought mainstream relevance in 25 games, record-breaking television ratings, social media engagement that had ESPN actually prioritizing WNBA content, jersey sales that made executives think they'd finally figured out the formula for sustainable growth. And then it all disappeared faster than a defensive rotation against Clark's passes. Those record TV ratings, gone. The social media buzz that had basketball Twitter actually debating WNBA storylines, vanished. The jersey sales and merchandise numbers that were making corporate partners excited cooled off faster than last week's leftovers. The league went from feeling like the next big thing in sports to fighting for scraps on highlight shows again. Post-game press conferences that used to be packed with actual national media went back to being half-empty rooms with the same 3 beat writers asking predictable questions. Television networks that were throwing money at WNBA broadcast rights suddenly remembered they had other programming priorities. Those primetime slots that seemed guaranteed went back to being filled with baseball reruns and poker tournaments that nobody asked for. The devastating part wasn't just losing the momentum, it was that the WNBA had finally tasted what mainstream success felt like, and losing it hurt worse than never having it at all. They'd gotten addicted to Clark's ability to make every game feel important, and the withdrawal was brutal. Other players started feeling the difference immediately. Their highlights weren't trending. Their games weren't generating buzz. The casual fans who showed up for Clark weren't sticking around to watch anyone else. The league's marketing department probably had meetings that felt like funeral services. They'd built their entire strategy around Clark's star power, and when she went down, they had no backup plan. You can't just replace the player who single-handedly brought millions of new eyeballs to your product. There is no contingency plan for losing that level of cultural impact. League executives started pushing other storylines harder than a used car salesman at the end of the month. They tried making Aja Wilson the face of everything. They highlighted rookie rivalries. They promoted playoff matchups with all the urgency they could manufacture. Nothing stuck. The casual fans were gone, and they weren't coming back without their favorite player. Even die-hard WNBA supporters could feel that something fundamental had changed. The financial impact hit every level of the organization. Merchandise sales dropped. Ticket sales for the following season became questionable. Sponsorship deals that seemed locked up suddenly had corporate partners asking awkward questions about viewership projections. The WNBA had proven that one player really could change everything, and Clark's absence proved that losing one player could destroy everything just as fast. Here's the truth that makes league executives uncomfortable. The WNBA needs Caitlin Clark way more than Caitlin Clark needs the WNBA. She proved she could generate mainstream attention playing college basketball. Her Iowa games regularly outdrew NBA playoff games. She brought cultural relevance to women's basketball without the league's infrastructure. They need her to survive. She'll be fine either way. Which brings us to the bombshell that changes this entire narrative. Clark's refusal to play off-season basketball isn't a rejection of the sport. It's a setup for the most dominant comeback story in women's basketball history. She's not sitting on her couch getting soft. She's getting healthy, training properly, and preparing for a return that will generate more attention than all those off-season leagues combined. Her target isn't Unrivaled or Athletes Unlimited. Her target is Team USA and the qualifying tournament in Puerto Rico this March. Those games will be the first time she sees real competitive action since July. And when she steps onto that court wearing a USA jersey, every network executive who thought they missed their chance with Clark is going to scramble for broadcast rights. This isn't just a comeback. This is appointment television that transcends basketball. The girl who brought millions of casual fans to women's basketball is returning on the biggest possible stage. NBC, ESPN, and Fox Sports are probably already planning their coverage strategy. This will be drop everything and watch television. and Clark knows it. Her first game back will likely generate more buzz than the WNBA Finals did. That's not disrespect to the league. That's just reality. Clark's college games broke viewership records that had stood for decades. Her WNBA debut was must-watch television for people who'd never cared about women's basketball before. Now imagine that same energy focused on an international tournament with national pride on the line. The social media explosion when she returns will be unprecedented. Every assist will break Twitter. Every deep three will crash Instagram. Every highlight will go viral faster than dance trends on TikTok. Clark's comeback will dominate sports coverage for weeks, and the WNBA will ride that wave straight into their most successful season ever. The league knows it. The players know it, and Clark definitely knows it. This is why her refusal to play in off-season leagues suddenly looks like genius-level brand management. While other players were grinding for paychecks that casual fans never heard about, she was building anticipation for a return that will be impossible to ignore. She turned absence into anticipation, and anticipation into pure marketing gold that no winter league could match. If this breakdown helped you understand what's really happening behind the headlines, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're diving deep into the stories the mainstream media won't touch, and you won't want to miss what we're uncovering next about the power dynamics reshaping women's basketball. March 11th through 17th will reshape women's basketball forever. Clark's return will prove that strategic patience beats short-term money every single time. The WNBA is about to get their golden goose back, and this time they better protect her like the franchise-altering asset she is. Because if this injury situation taught us anything, it's that the entire league's mainstream relevance lives and dies with number 22. That's not an opinion. That's just facts backed by television ratings and empty arenas when she's not playing. Until next time, keep questioning the official narratives. The real story is always hiding in plain sight.